Talking about the short and the long game of business after lockdown, it's pretty exciting for us guys in Victoria because we're going to get an announcement on Sunday as to what's going to be the future of business. But I think, there is a short and a long game. So I've got some guys on the call today that are going to give us a bit of guidance and a bit of sort of direction, I suppose. Just start with you, George. You're the first guy on the call. Tell us a bit about what you think the short and the long game of business after lockdown is going to be.
Well, the long game is going to be making the right investments. We're going to have to come out of the lockdown with a strategy for growing the business, and there are a number of different ways you can fund that, and the government provides some funding options. Both the assistance that they've provided during the coronavirus, but also beyond that into the future. You can use the R&D tax incentive, you can use the entrepreneurs program, the commercialisation accelerator. There's lots of ways, and we've got to get on top of that.
Yeah, fantastic. Pat, give us your view of the world. Short, long game of business after lockdown.
Yes, yeah, for sure. So I think really that's probably what's happened over the last really 6 to 9 months, all the way back to Christmas when we were dealing with bushfires and a whole heap of other issues as well. That businesses have really had to change, had to adapt, had to pivot is the buzzword. And obviously, the question is, they might have had to do that on the run. They might have had to do that in a hurry. So have they made the right decisions that are going to suit them long term? And then how does that affect every other part of their business? Do they need to reassess as we open up? And that flows into every part of their business, their financing, their marketing, all facets of their business.
Yeah, interesting. So Damien, what's your thoughts? Short and long game after lockdown?
Yeah, look, I think a lot of businesses and individuals have been doing it tough. We've had to suffer through lockdown, which, has been frustrating. But I think what it's going to do is there's been pent-up demand. I think once lockdown ends, I think there's going to be a lot of people who are keen to get out, purchase goods and services, move forward with their business in whichever way they can, because they just haven't been able to do it, So I think it is going to create a bit of a surge, and especially towards the end of the year, which is a natural period for purchases. I think it's going to create a surge because people are going to want to treat themselves. They're going to get stuff done. So that I think that short-term surge, I think, is something the business is going to need to plan for, because you don't want that surge to overwhelm your operations. You want to be able to predict what's going to happen and really understand, well, what do I need to do in my business to be able to best manage that surge? And then also look longer term, as Pat touched on, things have changed. Demand has shifted, customers shifted. So, there's definitely things we need to do that will set us up for the long term as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's two kinds of change in the world. There's cyclic change and there's structural change. And I think cyclic change is, we get into lockdown, people can't sort of do what they're normally doing. Construction slows down, business slows down, hairdressers can't cut hair. And surely enough, after lockdown, I've already heard it, hairdressers are booked out for 3 months in advance just to get all the greys out of my wife said a funny thing. She said, it's like all the women look like skunks now. They got this white stripe. I couldn't say that, but she could, right? But this is cyclic, right? So there's going to be a surge after lockdown. Everyone's going to try and accommodate as much as possible to make up the difference. But the structural changes, and I think this is one of the things people are overlooking. This is the long-term change, which is now technology has become the norm. People are going to be using this sort of channel, as part of business going forward, even after COVID. And I think it's just being aware that there's a short game, which is recover, and there's a long game, which is take some of the smart things that you've learned through this forced innovation and implement into your business. Any comments from you guys on this? Your thoughts, George?
Yeah.
I think the government's going to be providing a whole lot of different stimulus for the long game.
Yeah.
And it's knowing how to access that and getting in on the action, really, to to grow your business. And for example, the Entrepreneurs Program has been extended for another 3 years, and that's $300 million that's available.
Yeah, wow.
We've got to take advantage of that and really get your business off the ground and running.
It's in their interest, isn't it? Because there's a big tax bill looming
Exactly.
to pay for all of this, all this job seeker thing as well.
Yeah, and there's a lot of bad press about the R&D tax incentive. It's not going anywhere. It is still going to be available, and most of the companies that have qualified will continue to qualify and be able to, do that research and development and do it in Australia.
Yeah.
There's lots of advantage in doing that, and we've just got to encourage it, get on top of it, work out how to do it properly, and take advantage. And
so, Pat, tell us about the marketing. Like, what do you consider the structural changes in marketing that's going to occur as a result of this?
Yeah, well, it's probably like yourself and George touched on before. Some of the tactics that we used to employ as a part of more traditional marketing and even outdoor and space-based marketing just simply aren't attainable at the moment. I think probably the difference being what you touched on before about the change, cyclical change versus long-term change, is that cyclical change was really forced on us, and now the reverse of that, the opening up, is also being forced on us, which is positive for us all, but it's going to happen really rapidly and really aggressively, as we discussed before. So, for me, it's kind of it's going back to the fundamentals and really assessing, where your business is at. Who is your market now? It might have changed from before we went into lockdown.
Right.
Is your message still speaking, or taking you to market in the right way?
Yeah.
And are the tactics you're using still effective, and how are you measuring that? So it's fundamentals, but it's easily overlooked when you're rapidly trying to clamber back to where you were.
Mm. Yeah, awesome. And Damien, your thoughts on this, the short and the long?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the pandemic has really stress tested organizations. So if there was existing weaknesses, it's really brought it to the fore. And it's been, in some ways, a good trigger for businesses to radically look at the way they operate and make the changes that they had planned, make them a lot faster.
Yeah.
It's interesting, some of our clients have absolutely gone into lockdown, battening down the hatches, reducing all outgoings, and basically just riding it out until conditions pick up, which is, a reasonable strategy. Other businesses are actually taking the lull, as an opportunity to really focus on those long-term changes that they wanted to make, to really set themselves up strongly for when conditions pick up. And look, there's no one right answer for any business. It's situational.
Yeah.
But definitely, there's a requirement to really review the way you operate. Cut out any fat, really aggressively look at improving your performance, etc. Because if not now, when?
Yeah, it's a good question.
We've been doing a lot of business process improvement in the R&D space, but also in workflow automation.
Yeah.
Businesses have been taking the time when they didn't have to actively be doing to improve, and taking that step back and looking at things. And I think those that have taken the advantage of doing that during the lockdown are one group, and then there's those that can try and do it in order to recover quickly and get back on deck.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right, guys, look, I just wanted to sort of get an insight as to what's going on, the short, the long game. Appreciate your thoughts, appreciate your input. Thanks very much for your time today.
Cheers, David.
Cheers.